Patti Page, it's such a pleasure meeting you. Thank you so much for talking to us today.
Thank you, Angela.
What's it like being in your hometown and your home state?
Well, being in my home state is always a thrill. And I can't give you too many experiences of mine from Claremore because I didn't live here very long after I was born. My family moved to Hardy, Oklahoma. My father worked on the railroad, so he moved around a lot. Not that they were chasing him, but you never can tell. I didn't know too much about what their experiences were. But it's always a special heart beat or a heart throb or something. How can you explain it when you come home?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How did growing up in Oklahoma then, how did that shape some of who you are and shape kind of what you became in your career?
I'm sure that it had 100% to do with however it was shaped, and being from the family that I was or am, we were very down home, as you might say. No pretension or no pretense. And it was great growing up here. You were out in the open, you weren't hemmed in at all. And I remember going to school in Muskogee. Well, first Avant, I lived there, and then Muskogee, and then finally in Tulsa. And so my father settled down on the Midland Valley Railroad, and they were in Tulsa and all those towns which I lived in here in Oklahoma. So Tulsa was his last place of employment, and they loved it there. And I have relatives all over the state.
Very nice.
And I think it's been shaped, plus being from Oklahoma, but being from my family in particular.
Looking back over your career, what would you say that you're most proud of?
Well, I can't say that I have one that I'm more proud of than the other, but I do remember singing for 5 different presidents.
Wow.
So that was quite a thrill for me, and for my family too, especially since they were all Democrats, you know.
Well, I guess that tells us that.
that.
What kind of influences did you have growing up that kind of, you said your family was such an important part of shaping who you are, but as we know, I mean, there's always powerful influences that kind of guide us to where we end up being. Who?
Well, I think it was primarily being brought up in the faith that my mom and dad had, or especially my mother, and you just can't put a finger on, you know, a certain thing that might have had a big influence in your life, other than that my family was very religious, except my father, he was a hellion. But my mother had a hard time with him. But she finally got him to church. But I think it was the way that they brought us all up.
What do you think of music today?
Well, the part that I can understand, I think, is great. And I think the talent is fantastic. And I'm speaking mostly about country. I'm so glad that country has become such a big part of the American music scene. And I had no idea there were so many from Oklahoma in the country field.